The rusted Honda Civic did not belong here. It crawled through the Hargrove Financial Tower parking lot like an apology, engine rattling, one side mirror wrapped in electrical tape, rolling slowly past cars that cost more than most people earn in a lifetime. Bentleys. Range Rovers. A pearl-white Porsche Cayenne sitting near the far wall, gleaming like it had never once been touched by rain or cold or anything ordinary. Garrett Owens kept his eyes on the pavement. 34 years old. Looked every bit of 45. 3 jobs, a 6-year-old daughter named Wren who filled every spare page with yellow butterflies, and a wife named Renata who had been gone 2 years, gone before they ever made it to that doctor's visit they kept pushing back. He was here to drop off one catering invoice. 40 minutes. In and out. The side entrance had been blocked by construction with no sign, no notice, no warning. It pushed him straight back to the main lot, where the only open space left sat between a black Mercedes G-Wagon and that pearl-white Porsche. If you were standing in that parking lot right now, if it was your worn-out car, your tight budget, and nobody watching, what would you do? Keep watching, because what this man does next will stay with you. Before the story begins, show some love by liking this video and subscribing, then tell me where you're watching from, which country is representing today. He parked carefully. He was always careful. Invoice signed. 20 minutes gone. He walked back across the lot, and stopped cold. Something was wrong. The scratch was barely there. A thin white crescent on the Porsche's rear bumper, 2 inches at most, hairline thin, right at the corner where the March wind had caught his door and yanked it wide open before he could grab it. Garrett's stomach dropped straight to the ground. His eyes swept the lot. Fast. Automatic. 2 valets near the entrance, backs turned, helping a new arrival. A woman in a long coat moving toward the elevator. Nobody looking at him. Nobody watching. He stood there and ran the numbers. The math that men in his position were always running. The mark was almost invisible. Whoever owned a car like this had it detailed twice a week, probably. They would never notice something that small. And even if they did, one hairline scrape on a machine worth over $100,000? One tiny scratch on a bumper that probably got touched up monthly? They would not care. Probably. He stood frozen. A full 30 seconds. The parking lot kept moving around him, quiet, steady, completely unbothered by what he was carrying. Nobody slowed. Nobody glanced his way. His hand drifted toward his car door handle. He could leave. Right now. Nobody had seen it happen. Nobody in this lot, nobody in this building, nobody in this city would ever know it was him. He did not move. His hand rested on the handle. And he stood there, held in place by something that had no name but carried more weight than anything in his wallet. He ran every reason through his head. The scratch was small, smaller than a fingernail. The person who owned this Porsche would never think twice about it. Wren needed new school shoes, the ones she had were splitting at the seam and he had been putting it off for 2 weeks already. The parking meter on 5th had been broken. The side entrance had been blocked with no warning. The wind had pulled that door open, not him, not carelessness, just wind. If someone had done their job and kept that entrance clear, none of this would have happened. Every reason was real. Every single one held weight. And then something else arrived. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just steady, the way the truest things always come. Renata's grave. A cold January morning 2 months after they buried her. Him on his knees, dead grass under his palms, voice barely above a whisper. Making a promise that Wren would grow up watching her father be a man worth looking up to. Not someday. Not when the bills cleared. Not when things finally got easier. Every day. Even this one. Especially this one. He pulled his hand back from the door handle. He closed his eyes for one full breath. Then he reached inside the car and opened the glove compartment. There was a crumpled grocery receipt buried in the back. He smoothed it flat against the dashboard. Reached for his pen, the blue one he kept clipped to the visor, nearly out of ink, the kind where you have to press hard just to get it to leave a mark. He pressed hard. He wrote carefully, one line at a time. Sir or ma'am, I accidentally scratched your bumper. I'm sorry. I don't have much, but I'll make it right. Please call me. He wrote his name under that. Then his phone number. Then he read it over once. It wasn't enough. He knew that before the ink dried. A grocery receipt. A dying pen. Held up against a car that cost more than 3 years of his rent. It would never be enough for someone who lived at this level. The person who owned this Porsche could replace that entire bumper without feeling it. They could have the whole car repainted before lunch. But this was what he had. And it was honest. He folded it once, walked to the Porsche, and pressed it under the windshield wiper with both hands, steady, deliberate. Then he walked back to his Civic, started the engine, and pulled out of the lot without looking back. He never once looked up at the camera mounted above the exit gate. 17 cameras covered every inch of that parking lot. And the man who owned every single one of them had watched the entire thing. Preston Hargrove had not touched his glass of water in 40 minutes. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling window on the 42nd floor, staring down at the parking lot below with the stillness of a man holding something very heavy very quietly. Jacket off. Sleeves rolled once. The kind of compose that takes years to build and costs something to maintain. 51 years old. CEO of Hargrove Financial Group. Worth somewhere north of $4 billion. And right in the middle of the worst professional week of his life. 3 board members had voted 2 days ago to strip him of operational control. His CFO, a man he had mentored for 12 years, a man who had sat at his dinner table, who had held Preston's dying father's hand in a hospital room and called him family, had quietly handed the company over to an outside investment group. The whole move had been clean, planned, precise. And Preston had not seen a single sign of it coming. He was staring at the lot below the way a man stares when he has stopped trusting what he believes in. Then the rusted Civic crawled through the entrance. He watched all of it without moving. The careful parking. The invoice run. The walk back. The exact moment the man saw the scratch, how his whole body went completely still, the way the eyes swept left and right, the hand that drifted toward the car door and stopped. Then the glove compartment. The pen pressed down hard. The slow walk to the Porsche. The note tucked under the wiper with both hands like it mattered. Preston's jaw shifted. Something moved behind his eyes, something that had not moved in a long time. He reached for his phone. He did not call his attorney. He did not call legal. He did not call the PR team that had been waiting 3 days for a statement. He called security. Pull up camera 9. The white Civic. I want to know who that man is. The security officer moved without a single question. License plate traced in under 2 minutes. Visitor log pulled up immediately. Garrett Owens, catering delivery, signed in at 11:42 a.m. Preston took the page. Read the name. Then read it again. Something shifted in his face, quiet, contained, the kind of change most people in a room would miss entirely. But his assistant, Deja Calloway, who had stood at this man's side for 11 years and knew every version of him, caught it instantly. She had never seen that look on him. Not once in 11 years. He set the page flat on the desk and opened his calendar without a word. Board session at 2, cancelled. Emergency call with legal at 3, cancelled. The press statement his communications team had flagged urgent 4 days straight, cancelled. Deja stood in the doorway with her hand still on the frame, mouth slightly open. Preston did not look up. Find out everything you can about a Garrett Owens, he said quietly. Everything. 72 hours. That was all it took. Preston's team came back with a complete picture. 3 jobs. Early morning prep at a diner on Halsted, afternoon catering runs under his own small operation, and weekend delivery shifts for a grocery service on the south side. 1 daughter, 6 years old. Wife gone 2 years from an illness that got caught too late. A catering business run out of a 700-square-foot apartment in Pilsen. No criminal record. No civil suits. Not one parking ticket across 14 years of driving. Preston read the file 3 times without once getting up from his chair. He thought about his CFO, Marcus Webb, the man who had full access to everything, 12 years of trust built at every level, who used all of it with the edge of a blade. Then he thought about a man pressing a near-dead pen into a grocery receipt for a scratch the whole world would have let him walk away from. The investigator's final email arrived at exactly 11:47 p.m. One attachment. A name buried in the family history section. His father's name. Raymond Owens. Preston did not move. He sat with that name in front of him until the city outside turned from full dark to the first thin gray of early morning. Raymond Owens. A contractor from Chicago's South Side. Small business. A man who had taken a handshake deal with Preston's firm in 2004 because Preston had looked him in the eye and given his word. The deal had been legal. Every document signed, every clause enforced. Preston's firm absorbed Raymond's contracting company in a restructuring that cleared $3 million in assets, and stripped Raymond of his business, his equipment, and within 18 months, his home. Preston had known exactly what would happen to the man on the other side of that table. He had done it anyway. He had not lost one night of sleep over it. He never thought about Raymond Owens again after that. Until tonight. Garrett was 12 years old when it all came apart. Preston picked up a pen from his desk slowly. Set it down. Then picked it up again. Preston did not sleep. He sat at his desk with Chicago spread out 42 floors below him, still, dark, and completely unaware of what was happening in this room. The file lay open in front of him. Next to it, a framed photo of his father, taken in 1987. His father was laughing in that picture. He always laughed. Preston could not remember the last time he himself had. He had spent 30 years holding on to one belief: that business decisions were not personal, that distance was a form of discipline, that the people caught inside the math of a deal were simply part of the math. He had practiced that belief every single day. Garrett Owens had left a note for a scratch no law required him to report, and no person in that lot would have questioned him for walking away from. He had not walked away. And he had no idea, none at all, that the man who owned that Porsche was the same man who had taken everything from his father 20 years ago. That thought sat on Preston's chest like something concrete. By 4 a.m, he had made a decision. Not about the board. Not about Marcus Webb. About a phone call he was going to make when the sun came up. Garrett's phone rang at 7:14 in the morning. Unknown number. Chicago area code. He almost let it go. He was standing at the kitchen counter assembling a fruit platter for an 8 a.m. office drop, Wren at the table behind him coloring butterflies in yellow marker, her cartoon playing low on the tablet propped against the sugar jar. He answered. Mr. Owens? The voice was calm. Measured. The kind of voice that was used to being the last one in the room to speak. My name is Preston Hargrove. You left a note on my car. Garrett's hand went completely still over the cutting board. The Porsche. He had half convinced himself that whoever owned that car had read the note and dropped it straight into the trash. I'd like to meet with you, Preston said. Not about the scratch. Garrett looked over at Wren. She was drawing, fully unbothered, pressing that yellow marker into a butterfly's wings like nothing else existed. When? Garrett said. What Preston Hargrove was about to offer this man had nothing to do with a bumper or a repair bill. It had everything to do with a debt 20 years in the ground, one that was about to pull both of their lives up from the roots. Some debts don't stay buried. And some acts of honesty reach further than the person who made them will ever know. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that inspires. We bring you real human moments every single week. And drop a comment below. What would you have done in Garrett's place? Let your answer inspire someone else.